Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Brene Brown is a researcher, and I've learned a lot from her work. She is somewhat of an expert on the subject of human emotion, and a lot of her research has influenced how I think about extravagant generosity, especially her research around gratitude. And what she's learned from all of her work is that gratitude is not primarily an attitude or even an emotion outside our conscious control, but rather, gratitude is a choice. It is a choice that we make that, when made consistently, creates more joy and generosity in our life. But our instinct is to assume that the opposite is true, right? We think that if we feel joy, then gratitude will follow. But what emerged from Brené's research is that the opposite is true, that it is the intentional and consistent choice to practice gratitude, that this is what creates more joy and generosity in our life. And here's what that means for this conversation we're having about generosity and about the connection between faith and money. It means that we don't feel our way into a different way of giving. Rather, we give our way into a different way of feeling. I'm going to say that again. We don't feel our way into a different way of giving. We give our way into a different way of feeling. Because extravagant generosity is rooted in a very simple idea, namely that God has given us everything, and that the point of life is to return everything, all of our heart, all of our soul, all of our mind, all of our strength, to choose consciously to give that over to God as an expression of our gratitude. As N.T. Wright puts it, every mouthful of food we take, every breath of air that we inhale, every note of music we hear, every smile on the face of a friend, a child, a spouse, all of that and a million other things are all good gifts from God's generosity. G.K. Chesterton once said that the worst moment for an atheist is whenever he or she feels grateful and there is no one to thank. But as Christians, we are very clear that we do have someone to thank, that God is to be the recipient of our gratitude. And so I invite you to make a choice to give, not from a place of fear, not from a place of compulsion or duty, but rather as an expression of gratitude. I want to close today with one more quote from the late Henry Nouwen. He writes, "Choices. Choices make the difference. Two people are in the same accident and severely wounded. They did not choose to be in the accident. It happened to them. But one of them chose to live the experience in bitterness, the other in gratitude. We have very little control over what happens in our lives, but we have a lot of control over how we integrate and remember what happens. It is precisely these spiritual choices that determine whether we live our lives with dignity."